Our dairy show is going to start now with our judge, David Jones. David Jones is recently retired manager of the Oklahoma State University Dairy. He's coached the Oklahoma State University Dairy team, had 13 All-American students, grew up on a registered Jersey farm. He's judged 42 state fairs, the Western National in California, the All-American in Pennsylvania, and the All-American Jersey Show in Louisville, Kentucky. Handing out our ribbons tonight, we have Chloe Vaught, the 2019 Eddy County Fair Queen, Summer Crook, and Lauren Henson, our 2020 Expo Fair Queen contestants. And helping in the ring, we have Justin Caldwell, the superintendent, Jeff Heath, Fair Board member, and Kevin Phillips, also Fair Board member. Give a big hand to David Jones. Also, one reminder, we've talked about this before, but take all the pictures you want. Please do not post anything on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., TikTok, I don't know, all that stuff. Yeah, we kind of think maybe when you're with your family celebrating Thanksgiving, that might be a good time to remember this fair, or expo.
that have stuck to it and decided to go ahead and have a fair for the young people, because it is about young people, and they've worked long and hard and spent a lot of money and time, and I do appreciate that you went ahead and had it. With that being said, we've got to be careful, but I sure am proud of you. The next thing, I'm going to start this first class out with the young lady. If you'll lead your heifer on out as you go. She's certainly the biggest, most powerful heifer in here, but that's not why she's up there. I don't think they have to be big. In fact, I try to stick to that a lot. It's the depth of heart, depth of rib, and spring of rib that this heifer possesses that carries her over the second place heifer. If you'll pull this second place heifer out, I think you can see they don't have to be big for me. This little red and white heifer is really sharp and dairy and feminine. She also has an advantage over the first place heifer. She's a little bit cleaner boned, particularly at the hocks, than the big heifer is above her. I wish she had tucked that tail setting down just a bit. It kind of detracts from her, but when she tucks it down, she actually has a very correct rump angle. So good heifer, and then second, third, and fourth to me are all extremely close. I gave the red heifer the advantage in being, in being just a little sharper and cleaner, a little bit more dairy throughout than this heifer in third. A very well balanced heifer, and I really like that about her. If you'll go ahead and lead your black heifer out. This is the heifer that I toyed with going up to second, as high as second, because she's very attractive. You really like her length and stretch, but she gives up too much depth of rear rib to get above those two heifers above her. They just possess a lot more rear rib. And then we come to a heifer here that's big and growthy, and I really like that about her. Young lady, just if you'll lead on out. She's getting organized. There she goes. I really like the length and stretch of this heifer, but as I talked about depth of rear rib, that's the thing that this heifer lacks to get any higher in the class. I'd also like to make her a little stronger in the loin if I were going to move her up a bit. And then we get to this black heifer that does have a lot of rib. I'd just like to lengthen her out, stretch her out a little bit to go higher. And the same thing could be said about this heifer that's leading out now. This heifer does have the rib and strength that I like. You'd just like to make her a little bit longer and taller in her kind if you were going to get her any higher. But congratulations to you young people.
Please bring Class 2 dairy heifer to the show ring. Class 2 dairy heifer to the show ring. Results of Class 1. First, Abigail Porty, Artesia FFA. Second, Michaela Monk, Cottonwood 4-H. Third, Dresden Pinson, Artesia FFA, tag 6097. Fourth, Clay Kincaid, Penasco 4-H. Fifth, Daly Bean, Cottonwood 4-H. Sixth, TJ Thalman, Artesia FFA. And seventh, Dresden Pinson, Artesia FFA, tag 7629.
Okay, before we lead out and I start talking about the heifers, as I said, we're doing it all for young people, or I think that's what we ought to be doing it about. So I'm going to talk about showmanship for just a little bit and hope the youngsters out back are listening. As I come up behind your heifer as you're walking her, what I'm wanting to see is how she tracks on those rear legs, and I want to look up over her and see how tight she blends at the shoulders. So as you're walking away from me, try to move as slow and easy as you can, because the slower you move, the better those rear legs look. If she takes weird big steps, it just doesn't look good. So slow down and let me have a good look from the rear view. But back to the class, I think we've got a handy winner here. This young man, if you'll lead her out, I think she fits the description of a very complete heifer, and that's why she's up on the top. She's not the sharpest, but she's the most complete heifer, and by that I mean depth of heart, depth of rib, straightness of lines. She just fits every bill, and that tracking from the rear view, this heifer is exceptional. She really tracks on those rear legs very, very well, and kind of has that advantage over the second place heifer. Second follows her really, really close in her pattern, in her makeup. She just gives up a little bit of femininity and dairy character. She's not quite as clean as the heifer above her, but the same kind of heifer. The red heifer, I moved her up a couple of spots towards the end, and I told the young man I'd like to clean her up in that front end, blend those shoulders a little bit tighter, and give her a little bit more femininity throughout. But she does have the width and strength and power that I'm looking for. We used to really put a lot of emphasis on dairy character and femininity, but we're finding out they've got to have the strength and the width and the depth of chest to stay around very long. So that's why she went over these next two heifers. I really admire. Go ahead and lead yours out. Both of these two heifers really fit the bill of femininity and dairiness and sharpness and cleanness, but I'd like to give both of them a little bit more depth of rib if I were going to get them a little bit closer to the top, particularly rear rib. Then if you'll lead this heifer out, a very structurally correct heifer, as is the black heifer below her. Both of these heifers are, go ahead and lead her up, are kind of my kind of heifers. They just weren't big enough to get up there and compete with those bigger, stronger heifers above them. The young man leading out right now, I would probably like to compliment him because he has certainly fed her well, there's no question, but we would like to grow them out and get them long and tall and keep them feminine. She's put a little bit more flesh on than I would like to see, and it costs a lot of money to do that.
Please bring Class 3 dairy heifer to the show ring. Class 3 to the show ring. Results of Class 2. First, Cole Kincaid, Artesia FFA, tag 6095. Second, TJ Thalman, Artesia FFA. Third, Wiley Miller, Artesia 4H. Fourth, Michaela Monk, Cottonwood 4H. 5, Kaylin Wood, Cottonwood 4H. 6, Dresden Pinson, Artesia FFA. 7th, Cole Kincaid, Artesia FFA, tag 6093. And 8, Lupito Carrasco, Loving 4H.
think they've been listening out back that I'm looking for a showman, because it has sure stepped up in this group, and I think they've gotten better as time goes on. So I'll talk about showmanship just a little bit. There's no question that the young lady up here with this top heifer has worked with her a lot at home. There's no question about that. And usually that's where showmanship is won, is at home, that you've done your chores, that you've worked with that heifer at home. In fact, she looked at this heifer like, you're not going to mess up. That was kind of the look that she gave the heifer. She did move slow and accurately. I don't expect that you have to keep your hand back there. In fact, I would prefer what you just did, of reaching up there and getting control of that heifer, that you're doing that job. But a very nice job. The young lady in second, very nice job. The two young ladies down there in fourth and fifth, nice job. Third, did it probably easier, and I never saw her pulling the throat until we were halfway through. And that's kind of what you really want. They're trying to pull that loose skin up, but you really don't want the judge to know it, because you want him to think that she's sharp and clean and feminine, and she did a very nice job of that. So I would really like to compliment you guys on your showmanship. It's getting better as we go along. But with that being said, I've got to put the best heifer on top, and young lady, if you'll lead your heifer out first. There is no question which is the best heifer in this class. Is she the biggest one? No. But she is the best heifer. She's the straightest in her line. She's hardest over the top. She's dairy. She's clean. She's feminine. She walks on a really good set of feet and legs, tracks out very well, and it doesn't hurt that she's been fitted to a T. This is a very, very good heifer that's been worked with, and I overlooked the size, and she certainly gives up size to the second place heifer. This is a big, long, tall heifer that you admire that about, but to get her over the heifer on top, she'd have to be a little smoother and straighter in the loin, and she would have to have more depth of rib to make her that heifer that could have got around that little one, but a very good heifer. And then we're coming out with this third place heifer that the young lady did a very nice job of pulling the throat and trying to make her look feminine. The heifer just doesn't help her on that femininity very much. She's big and powerful, and that's why she's in third, is because of her depth of rib and depth of heart, but she sure needs to be cleaned up a little more dairy and a little more feminine. Then we come out with a big growthy heifer. Really admire her width of chest and her growth. You get up over the top of her, and her shoulders really blend pretty nice. She just doesn't hold herself together as well as the other heifers, and certainly doesn't have the spring of rib from behind of the heifers. Then we drop to a really fancy, really nice heifer here, and this young lady did a very nice job showing too. It was not overlooked, I promise. This heifer just gives up too much size and scale and doesn't have the rear rib to get up any higher. We get down here and it's dairiness and femininity over the heifer that's leading out, a very structurally correct heifer, and you really ought to be pretty pleased that this good of the heifer is leading out. You know, there's some shows that heifer would have been leading out on the other end instead of where she is. But I hope you can see that she's beginning to put too much flesh on, and just a little more body condition than I would like to see at this stage of the game. Congratulations.
Please bring Class 4 dairy heifer to the show ring. Class 4 to the show ring. Results of Class 3. First, Jay Starnes, Cottonwood 4-H. Second, Michaela Monk, Cottonwood 4-H. Third, Danica Jo Rose, Loving 4-H. Fourth, Kaylin Wood, Cottonwood 4-H. Fifth, Abigail Porty, Artesia FFA, tag 42309. Sixth is Abigail Porty, Artesia FFA, Tag 42310. Seventh, Kyle Bean, Cottonwood 4-H.
And let's put our hands together for these young people. They've done a very nice job, and I'm going to do something a little bit differently. You usually start talking up here. I'm going to start talking down on the other end. The young lady, and it's not her fault right now, but the young lady 198 ended up on the other end, and I wanted to see if she quit showman for me, and she did not. And I will make a compliment. She is the only one out here in this group that turns around and faces me when you come to the front of the animal. As the judge comes to the front of the animal, he's wanting to see the width of chest and whether that heifer toes out or not. So you need to turn around, step to the side of that animal, and let the judge see the front end. And the young lady down there is the one that did it right. So congratulations on your showmanship down there. But back to the heifers. I've said the word complete several times tonight, and that fits this heifer again here on the top. If you'll lead her out. She doesn't hold together really well when you line her up, but looks exceptional on the move. But it's her completeness that carries her over the second place heifer, particularly her depth of rib and her width of pins. If you'll get behind this heifer, you really admire her width. We'll try that. Yeah, much better. The white heifer that led out really has an advantage in width of hooks, pins, and thurls. You really admire her width back there, and I'm not smart enough to pick the best udder, but she's sure got a good udder promise at this point. The heifer in second follows her pattern really well. You also admire the udder promise under this heifer, but she gives away too much depth and spring of rear rib to get around that white heifer on top. I'd also like to make her a little smoother and straighter right there in the loin if she were going to get into first. But second's really good, has an advantage over third in femininity, style, balance, and dairy character throughout. This third place heifer again is complete. She's certainly carrying more flesh than I would like to see at this point, but she's made right. She's straightened her lines. She has the depth of heart and the strength that I would like to see. The white heifer coming out here needs more width out through that rump. As I talked about width of pins and thurls, this heifer just needs to be a little bit wider and flatter out through that rump if I were going to get her on up. Big growthy heifer leading out here. I think the heifer's leading the young man at this point, but big growthy heifer, I'd just like to see her a little more stylish. The young lady leading out with the small heifer, I think and hope she realizes that there's nothing wrong with the heifer. She just gave away too much size, particularly width of chest and depth. She told me she was only very short pregnant, and I appreciate that. But I appreciate the young lady even more for the job she did with the heifer.
Results of Class 4. First, Wiley Miller, Artesia 4-H. Second, Jay Starnes, Cottonwood 4-H. Third, Clay Kincaid, Penasco 4-H. Fourth, Abigail Porty, Artesia FFA. Fifth, Kyle Bean, Cottonwood 4-H. And sixth, Michaela Monk, Cottonwood 4-H. was Abigail Porty, Artesia FFA. Second place, Class 1, was Michaela Monk, Cottonwood 4-H. Class 2, first place was Cole Kincaid, Artesia FFA. Second place, TJ Thalman, Artesia FFA. Class 3, first place was Jay Starnes, Cottonwood 4-H. Second place was Michaela Monk, Cottonwood 4-H. Class 4, first place was Wiley Miller, Artesia 4-H, and second, Jay Starnes, Cottonwood 4-H.
All right, we're here for the young people, so let's put our hands together. But when you young people walk out of the ring, you give mom and dad and grandma and grandpa a hug, because it takes a lot of work to get to here. And I do appreciate the amount of work. It's hot. You guys have done an exceptional job of fitting, getting these animals ready, particularly these three that are out here right now. And I'll talk more about them. Don't mean to detract from the heifers that I left in the line back there, but these three are extremely fancy. I really admire these three. These are going to be your honorable mention, your reserve champion, and your grand champion overall. Normally, I usually get that big heifer out, and she probably is deserving. She lacks the hardness over the top and just the style of these three here. These three that we've got out here are very stylish, attractive heifers, and that's what that big heifer needs, because she's good in every other way. But I'm going to look them over just a little bit, but I thought these young people deserved a little bit, and you guys need to see at least what I'm trying to look for in heifer. They need to be straight in their lines and good on their feet and legs, and certainly have depth of both fore and rear rib. Same thing that I am, and at least what I talk about. Your honorable mention is going to be this heifer up here on the end. Really good heifer, but when I start analyzing and breaking them down, it's her rear legs. The other two heifers track on a little straighter set of rear legs, particularly from the side view. They're also a little cleaner boned, particularly in the hock. So that's what settles her to honorable mention. To me, it gets much closer between this pair of heifers down here. We've got the really, really feminine heifer down there on the end. She's sharp and dairy and attractive. There's no question about it. We've got the big, powerful heifer here in the middle. Very correct in every way. Now, if I were going to make her perfect, I'd probably like to thin her down to like the heifer is back there in the back. That's the only indication we have of how they're going to milk when they get older. And I know that doesn't hold true, but as a whole, you want them sharp and dairy with the thought that they're going to become a milk cow and be sharp and dairy. But I think we still have to evaluate structural correctness, and your champion heifer today is going to be the heifer in the middle. Granted, we could pull a little bit of flesh off of her, but she is so correct, and it's particularly back through the hips, pins, thurls, and rear legs that she has the advantage over the really sharp feminine heifer down there. When you get behind her, she's much wider at the pins, wider at the hooks, and tracks on a straighter set of rear legs, particularly when she's walking away from you. Very nice set of heifers. It was an honor for me to get to judge your show. And again, congratulations for you guys having the thing.
Your grand champion heifer went to Cole Kincaid out of Class 2. He's from Artesia FFA. Your reserve grand went to Abigail Porty, Class 1, Artesia FFA. Please give the judge and all the exhibitors a big round of applause, please.